You still have to show up when you are deciding to become the best version of yourself. Welcome or welcome back. It's your favorite mental health specialist, Ty Guidance, and yes, that is what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Now, with that being said, because there's no right or wrong way to heal yourself, always and only take what resonates as well as leave the rest. So if it doesn't apply, it's not for you, don't force it and let it fly. But most importantly, grab your pens, grab your paper, and be prepared to take notes. In this video, we're going to go over and discuss the harsh truths about surviving trauma, accepting your new identity, moving forward, and actually seeing the result of your goals, as well as some recommendations, some reminders, some disclaimers, and certain things that you should be aware of. Getting straight into the video, getting straight into the title, and this is the first disclaimer. When you go through things in life, as an adult, if you do not have community, if you don't have the support, if you don't have the resources, you don't have the tools, you still have to show up for yourself. This doesn't mean that when we go through certain things that we don't have the right to feel how we feel. Nobody's saying that you have to invalidate what it is that you've gone through or not express yourself. But the reality is that a lot of times we make our problems so much more complicated and so much more difficult than what it needs to be. This doesn't mean that it's not an inconvenience. This doesn't mean that this does not affect you, whether it's emotionally, physically, financially, subconsciously, howeverly. But the reality of the truth is that when we go through things, we're meant to learn certain lessons. The only reason why, like I said, it just seems so challenging and so difficult is because a lot of times we're not taught on how to learn the lessons or how to overcome the adversity. So therefore, we end up extending it. And what I mean by extending it is just staying in situations and not coping or finding ways to come up with solutions or talk about how we feel. So the first disclaimer is just knowing that when you have a problem, if you have the resources and when you have the resources, learn to solve it immediately. Do not hesitate to solve your problems. Now, unless you have like disabilities or it's health, that's different because it requires more energy, it requires recovery, it requires assistance. If it is not medical, if it's not life or death, you have to learn how to solve your problems immediately. And I'm going to keep reiterating that because that is the biggest disclaimer and one of the most valuable gems in this entire video. Learning to solve our problems in the moment. Once again, if it's finances and you don't have the finances, you really don't have to stress or worry. You just need to figure out what can you do with either what you have or what do you need to do to seek assistance. You are never not going to be in a situation where you're not going to be able to solve your problems as long as you want to come up with a solution. Don't let that go over your head. The second disclaimer is that when you're learning to solve your problems immediately, you have to express how you feel. So you could be angry and mad in the moment or for a significant amount of time, but eventually you cannot allow your emotions to overcome your mind or your body or your energy, because when you allow these negative emotions and these negative thoughts, whether it's from yourself or other people, to affect you, you then now become infatuated and fixated with these feelings. And if you're infatuated with negativity, you become negative. If you're listening to people talk down on you or make fun of you or abusing you, you will feel that way about yourself. And when you feel this way about yourself, you're either going to start to project and deflect onto people and places and things, or you're going to mistreat yourself. You're going to neglect yourself. And when you mistreat yourself and you neglect yourself and you start being mean to yourself, you block your blessings. You don't move forward. You become trapped or you become paralyzed. So the third disclaimer is that when you have to show up for yourself despite of what you've gone through and you're going through things alone, take your time. Like I stated, if you don't have the resources, if you don't have the tools, if you don't have the family, you don't have the support, there's no need for you to rush. I understand the world is moving on. People and places and things are happening. Outside looks exciting. It's a lot going on, but you have to focus on yourself. You have to realize if you have the finances, if you have the education, if you have the transportation, if you have the resources. If you don't have those things, you cannot be consumed about everything else because it's a distraction. And honestly, it doesn't matter. You have to realize, okay, if I get a flat tire on the way to work or on the way to wherever you need to go, do I have insurance? Would I be able to call somebody to come get me? Do I need somebody to tell? Like, you have to be able to realize what's going on with you. You don't need to be worried about how everybody else is doing certain things and what they got going on if they're not going to finance you, feed you, educate you, or help you come up with a solution. Like, you don't need to be comparing yourself, and that's going to also to help you with your emotions and not be so hard on yourself. A lot of times we're hard on ourselves because we're worried about what everybody else is doing. No, if you got sick and once again maybe you don't have transportation to get to the doctors or Medicare or somewhere where they can help you, you can't be worried about other people who have insurance or who are constantly getting help if you don't, like, it's no need to be rushing ourselves when we're learning to take care of ourselves alone by ourselves. So the fourth disclaimer is that you have to be mindful of when you're able to do things and when you're not. So I created a 30-day consistency challenge. If you're new here, it's a playlist. I'll have it in the description and in the top in the beginning of the video as I'm recording this right now. And it breaks down when to do things, why you should do things, where you're going to do things, and what you need. Like, you need a schedule and a routine that works for you. Everybody doesn't have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning unless they have to be somewhere. I personally do not wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I am very blessed and I'm very fortunate. I have nothing but time and freedom. This is why I make the videos when I feel like it. But it's like, in order for me to get to this point in my life, I had to become disciplined. I had to use the hours where I had to myself to invest into myself. So if you know you have a busy schedule, you have to be mindful of the time that you're able to pour into yourself. Rather it's a self-care day, rather it's a mental health day, rather you're going to work. Like, you do need to have a routine and a balance. I don't believe in working yourself extremely hard or overworking yourself or just anything that's hard, because life does not have to be difficult. Everyone does not have to struggle. And over here, we're not here to struggle or suffer or make our life difficult. Once again, this doesn't mean that we don't have responsibilities. I don't have responsibilities. I don't have things to do, but I have to be practical. It's only 24 hours in a day. I'm not going to cause myself a heart attack. I'm not going to cause myself a panic attack. I'm not going to hyperventilate. I'm not going to cause myself a stroke. I don't want any diseases like anxiety, depression, cancer. Like, that's what happens to people because they're stressed, they're anxious, they're overwhelmed. Like, I don't have time for that. You don't have time for that. Like, physically, I cannot afford it, and neither can you guys. So it's like, we need to know, okay, if we work 4 days out of 7 days, within those 4 days, we make sure that, we have time to like eat, we have time to rest, we have time to get ready for work, we have time, I guess, afterwards. And then on the 3 other days, what are you doing within those 72 hours? Like, do you have a self-care day? Do you have a day where you're working on your goals? Like, do you have a day where you exercise? Like, unless you're like having the same flexibility. If not, do what you can with what you have. I know you don't want to hear that. That's the truth. And that's going to lead into the recommendations, but you still have to show up. The longer you wait to show up to do something that you know you need to do, the more draining it's going to seem. Like, it only seems draining a lot of times, like I said, is because we didn't learn a lesson. Now, when you're not taught and shown how to problem solve, you really can't beat yourself up. And that's going to be part of the first recommendation. Stop being so hard on yourself. This is something that you have to practice. This is something that's not going to happen overnight unless you decide, starting today when you watch this video, you're no longer going to be mean to yourself, which I recommend that you do, right? That's going to be your challenge in this video. But it's like, if you, like I said, are learning to start a business, go to school, get yourself out of poverty, heal yourself from childhood trauma, like if you're physically trying to move, whatever it is, you have to realize it's a lot of energy, a lot of effort. And if you want to be able to sustain the things that you're working towards and what you're praying for, you have to be able to be present. You can't be mean to yourself. You can't beat yourself up. So you have to work on positive self-talk. How do we go about having positive self-talks? in the comment section, in your notes, whenever you have a negative thought, I want you to decide either A, if this thought belongs to you. Like, do you really feel that way about yourself? And I need you to put it in the comment section. I need you to put in your notes. Do you feel this way about yourself? And B, decide how do you want to go about with this negative thought. So for example, you guys, this bright light, I literally just looked into the light and got dizzy. But how you go about, and I'm not going to edit this, how you go about handling your negative thoughts. So let's just say that you feel like you're behind in life, right? I'm going to ask you, A, do you really feel this way about yourself? Like, do you agree that you feel like you're far in life, like far behind in life? Or B, what are you able to do with this thought? So an example would be, if I feel like I'm far behind in life, what can I do today to not be far in life? And lastly, which is C, so it's 3 things. Why do you feel this way? You need to be able to identify why you have the negative thoughts. So therefore, like I said, you can decide A, B, or C. But we cannot continue to beat ourselves up when we're showing up and we're doing everything that we can, the best way that we can, based off of what we were taught and shown. Like, until you guys seriously watch these videos and take what resonates and apply, or you seek therapists, you seek a psychiatrist, you go to your God, answers to the universe, take what resonates, leave the rest, because I'm not here to force religion or spirituality. You're going to go through the same things. Life is going to continue to life, and you're going to feel like nothing is working out for you. The second recommendation, as you're learning to be nicer to yourself and as you are aware that you need to learn a lesson, is understand, okay, if I'm going through something, what is the reason? You need to be able to start identifying and paying attention why you're having to experience what you're experiencing. Until you learn to pay attention to your actions and your behaviors and your mindsets and even the people and the places and things around you, it's going to be a cycle, a never-ending cycle. You need to be more intentional, and this is something, like I said, that you have to practice over time. Like, this is something that you have to constantly do. Like, you have to constantly show up for yourself. And that's the third thing. Like, you have to motivate yourself. You guys, I can only do so much motivation. You still have to be able to motivate yourself. And until you learn how to be your biggest support system and your biggest cheerleader, you can't be worried about everything else. And I keep saying that part over and over again because that also needs to be reiterated. And I'm speaking from experience. Until I was able to learn to show up despite of what I've gone through, despite of how people said and did certain things, I was not able to keep pushing forward and keep moving forward. Like, it is a big responsibility. I'm not going to sit here and make it seem like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like, showing up for your goals is not something that requires a lot of energy. I'm not going to personally say that it's hard or difficult, because it's like, if it was really that hard, if it was really that difficult, you don't have to do it. But it's just like, what I realized is that if you say you want something, you have to make it happen. Like, you actually have to mean what you say. And I personally feel like the reason why a lot of people struggle with meaning what they say is because they've never stood for anything. Like, if you never had goals, if you never felt successful, if you were never poured into, like, as a child or as a teenager, if you never had, like, community, like, it's just, I feel like people who have been programmed to think less of themselves or not have high confidence are the only people who struggle with this. Because people, we see it all the time, like, people that are like celebrities or people who are wealthy or people who are well-known public figures, they've had support systems. They've been like playing sports since they were a child. Like, they've had people support them and instill confidence into them and discipline. So it's like, if you grow up without discipline, that's just something that you have to learn. And honestly, speaking from experience, you really, like I said, don't need to be worried about how other people are perceiving you or what's going on, because you have to learn that for yourself. Like, yes, you can have people support you, but at the end of the day, you still have to be able to hold up to that weight. And when you're doing it, like I said, by yourself, like you were never taught and shown certain things, it takes a lot more energy versus having somebody to be there financially, emotionally, or physically for you. So it's just like, don't be so hard on yourself. Like, I know you have days where you're tired. Like I said, that's the third or fourth recommendation. I lost count. Have days where you have rest. Like, you don't have to overwork yourself. I'm not overworking myself. And I'm an entrepreneur. And once again, I don't think being an entrepreneur is hard. It's just time consuming. And most people don't realize what they're doing. Like, most people are not looking at a specific outcome. People just are looking in the present moment. And it's just like, if you're just looking in the moment, what you did today, what about tomorrow? Like, that's a different topic within itself. So it's just like, overall, when it comes to showing up despite of what we're going through, we really just have to, that's the fourth thing, is just like self-reflect. Because it's like, if you've been traumatized, if you've been hit by a bus, if you have no family, if you've never been taught discipline, and you want to lose weight, and now all of a sudden you're going to the gym and you're investing into a personal trainer, like, don't you think that it's going to require you to be like stretched and uncomfortable? And I'm only saying uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar. And that's all it is. Like, learning to show up for yourself when you have gone through a significant amount of trauma and you're becoming the best version of yourself is literally just unfamiliar. And it's only unfamiliar, unfortunately, because you were traumatized. And I'm just going to hold you guys' hand and personally apologize. I'm sorry that you had to go through the things that you went through. And that's going to be the fifth thing. You have to learn to apologize for yourself for going through certain things and not knowing any better, but deciding and committing that you're going to change and that you're going to make better choices. Like, a lot of us have been traumatized, including myself, and everyone is a victim to a certain extent, but it's just like, instead of continuing to have that victim mentality, you don't have to feel bad for yourself once you realize that, you know what, even though you may have been like abused, touched on, beaten, neglected, sabotaged, whatever it was, even though you went through those things, you don't have to feel bad, because if you know that you've been a genuine person and you have a good spirit and a good heart and you've done the best of what you could based off of what you were taught and shown, you will be able to have moments where you're self-reflecting and you're figuring out what it is that you want, and you will figure out what you need to do and you will get there. It's just gonna take time, because it's like, nobody was there for you. Like, you're having to be there for yourself. And that's the truth about showing up despite of what we go through. Like, you still have to be there for, like, I still had to be there for myself, you guys. As much as you want to cry, as much as I've cried, as much as you want to throw a temper tantrum, as much as you want to be angry, it's just like, you just have to keep moving. And me personally, you guys, I refuse to be bitter. I refuse to be angry, because that's not who I am. And it does suck when you, like I said, are a genuine person and maybe you encountered some people who weren't that way, and unfortunately, you were exposed to their energy, or people, doing things. Because, you guys, it's a lot of things that I've been through. Like, I've had people try to do a lot. And me personally, because I don't value these people, and I never will, I'm not allowing them to block my blessings. Like, I will rock your world before I let you get in my way. Instead of me, like, rocking their world, I just, let people think what they want to think, let them talk. I'm still gonna get to where I need to be. So it's just like, we just have to ask ourselves, do we want to continue to show up, or do we want to stay where we are? So I'm gonna end off the video with that. That's what I'm asking you. Let me know in the comment section. Do you want to stay where you are, or are you gonna keep moving forward? Because life and time is gonna go by regardless. So it's just like, I would rather us both feel, like I said, uncomfortable in the beginning or right now than 5, 10, 20 years from now. Because it's like, if you stay in the same position, you're really going to be angry. I'm telling you. So it's just like, if you need to, like I said, have an attitude and be frustrated in the moment, okay, cool. But it's like, eventually, that attitude and that anger, as long as you're taking your time and you're doing what works for you and you're not comparing yourself, it would all make sense. So with that being said, I'm just challenging you guys to figure out, like I said, what are we doing with these negative thoughts? Are we going to believe them? Are we going to come up with solutions? Or are we going to identify how we feel? and let me know what resonated with you. What do you need to work on? What do you do to continue to show up for yourself? Like, what are some positive affirmations that you have to tell yourself or remind yourself or reassure yourself with? As well as follow me on all my social media platforms. All the information is down in the description box below. Thank you for turning on your post notifications. Thank you guys for always engaging. Thank you guys for always liking. Thank you guys for always subscribing, as well as follow me on TikTok and on Instagram, because for the rest of the month of November, I will be going live breaking this stuff down. Okay, till next time, peace, love you, bye.